Hey everyone, so I'm going to walk you through this worksheet. Uh, this is actually a worksheet that we've done in class before, but we're going to just review it more in depth and try to get a better understanding of how to use a map to help answer questions. So here's just a little background information. It's basically what was talked about in the first video for this lesson about the Mexican-American War. Uh, President James K. Polk promised to fulfill Manifest Destiny, which was the idea that it was the fate of the United States to expand westward. So, west is this way. So, he felt that it was their fate to take all this territory. He offered to pay Mexico $30 million for California and New Mexico, but Mexico refused. So, that was basically all of this land right here. A boundary dispute over the border between Texas and Mexico ultimately resulted in the outbreak of war. So, because Mexico refused, and over that dispute of what the border between Texas and Mexico was, that led to a war. So, that disputed territory you can see is right here, right? Now, as we reviewed in the previous video, Mexicans claimed that the Nueces River was their border, right? So if this was their border, that means that Mexico has more land. On the other hand, the US is saying that the Rio Grande, which goes all the way along here, is the border, which means that the US would have more land if that was the case. So all of this territory was disputed, right? It was not officially acquired by anyone as of yet. This wasn't really anyone's territory yet. It was disputed, right? In gray, we can see that this is the territory that was acquired from Mexico in 1848 and was what was known as the Mexican Cession, right? So this was the land that eventually the United States would acquire from Mexico. This area, as we just said, is the disputed territory, right? And the line in dark black is the boundary line in treaty, the agreement which ended the Mexican War in 1848. So this officially became the border right after the Mexican War was over, and this would be Mexican territory, right? Now, using what we see on this map, I'm going to go over how to answer some of these questions. Now, on your own, I'm not going to expect you to answer number one because you need to do this on paper. So the Nueces River is, you can see it's right here, right? It's pointing, it says it right here, and it's pointing right here. Now, which river do you think Mexico said was the boundary? So, as we reviewed in the previous video, we already said it. The Nueces River uh, is the river that Mexico said the boundary was. And why do you think they would say that this was their boundary? Because that would give them more land. If it extends all the way out to here rather than here, then they have more land, right? Now, you should know which river, it's already been said, which river you think the United States the boundary was. Which river do you think the United States said the boundary was, right? Which, according to the United States, which river were they claiming was the boundary, right? So for the rest of these questions, I want you to use what you see on the map and what we've learned in the previous video to answer the rest of these questions. Now, to define this word on number 5, you can simply Google it, right? Open a new tab, definition, and you will find it, right? Pretty much everything else can be answered based on what you see on this map and the knowledge that you gained from the previous video. All right, so you're going to submit this assignment in assessments, and you are simply going to number your responses, right? Skip number 1, you're not doing that one. And for numbers 2 through 8, you're just gonna type the number and then write your answer. You don't have to rewrite the question. All right, that is all.